I didn't know if you wanted to start yet or not. I was just asking.
Yes, whenever you're ready, Gus, go ahead and start.
Okay. Meeting agenda right here. Call to order. Hearing from the public.
We do have some members of the public with us today.
This is Passel.
Yeah.
I have no comments.
Great, thanks, Passel.
For E&D, thank you. Oh, one thing though, we're going to have our next meeting at noon on my Bears Roundtable meeting. I don't have a date in front of me because my computer is blocked by your Zoom. So so it'll be on the E's website and Facebook page. So we're going to start our next E&D meeting at noon. It'll go for 2 hours. Thank you.
Okay, no other hearing of the public. Then we have election of the 22 chair and vice chair. And I guess at this time we'll take nominations for the chairman.
I'll nominate
this is Matt.
Tim.
I will second. This is Matt Waldinger.
All in favor?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the nomination.
I didn't either, actually, but I thought it was just me. Can we, Mark, did you make the nomination?
I did. I nominated Tim May for chair.
It was seconded by Matt Waldinger.
Okay, now is
so do we need any other nominations? Are there any other nominations on the floor at the moment? All right, hearing none, let's move on to the chairmanship and get nominations, or the vice chair, I mean, sorry about that. So vice chair nominations.
I'd like to nominate Mark Welka.
I'm sorry, who was that for the record? Who nominated Mark
Ron
Welka?
Bull.
Perfect.
Ron Bull.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second Matt Waldinger.
Great. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? All right, hearing none. We have a slate of officers as Tim May for chair and Mark Welka for vice chair. Is there a motion to accept this slate of officers?
So moved, Ron Bull.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Well, welcome, Mark, to the vice chairmanship. Since Tim, unfortunately, is on vacation today, I will let you take over the meeting.
All right, thanks, Emily. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from December 8th, 2021 meeting?
I'll make that motion, Matt Waldinger.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, number 5, revisions of the bylaws. Emily, maybe you could touch on revisions there.
Sure. The revision to this bylaw is to allow the coordinating committee and the technical advisory committee to nominate a chairman emeritus. This position would be able to serve on the MPO and special boards and be able to serve as chairman in case the chairman and vice chairman are unable to attend the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to accept that revisions to the bylaws?
Dave Robinson, EMT, I'll make the motion.
Brian McNulty will second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, thank you. Item 6, 2021 through 2024 Transportation Improvement Program. Penndot?
Thank you, Mark. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Brandon.
All right. So we have a number of different charts to review today. Just in case you were looking at the agenda and wondering why they were separated. And these will be touched on a little later with the explanation of the rounds of IIJA funding for fiscal year 2022. But essentially, we have a chart that lists all the modifications to the TIP that included our regular TIP dollars that we already anticipated for this year. And then there's also a chart of what we call IIJA additional funds that basically are infusions of different funding categories to the 2021 TIP for just fiscal year 2022. And 3 of the 5 actions on those are amendments, so we will be voting on those. But in the interest of time, I wasn't going to touch much on the first round of amendments we have on the screen here. 3 informational items of just modifications added to the added from the basically statewide TIP to the Erie TIP. And Emily, if you want to jump on to the non-IIJA actions. Yep, so she has them up there. And there were a total of, let's see here, there were 9 administrative modifications to the TIP using these actions. Again, I wasn't going to highlight any unless anyone had any questions for these, so we can get on to the IIJA actions that are amendments and require board approval. So unless there are any questions, I'll just move on to those. Okay. Hearing none, Emily has up on the screen the IIJA / bill modifications and amendments. I'll just pull it up here. The first amendment, actually, it's the second action on the chart, is an amendment to add the new reserve line item to the 2021 Erie TIP. And this is basically how we decided through district and MPO coordination to add the funds to the TIP rather than determining which projects to put it on. It was just decided it'd be easier from a programming standpoint to create line items, reserve line items to put this money onto the TIP that way, so it can then be moved over to different projects throughout fiscal year 2022. So this first amendment is to add $900,000 in additional BOF federal funds to this project, and then $476,000 in federal HSIP funds, both to the same line item. And then the second amendment, because this is a new funding category, the BRIP, is a bridge investment program that's coming from IIJA / bill. I'll probably be using those back and forth throughout today because it's essentially referring to the same thing. But this was to add the $3,013,000 in new BRIP funding to the 2021 TIP for federal fiscal year 2022. And then the last amendment on there, and actually I believe Courtney's on the agenda to discuss this in detail, is using some of that IIJA additional funding to fund a PMC item that's a cost increase to the Erie Bayfront project. So yep, Emily has that pulled up on the screen as well, but we'll be talking about that in a few minutes then. So I'm not sure, Emily, how we want to handle it for voting purposes, if we want to maybe just vote on 1 and 2 first, and then save 3 for discussion, since it is part of the PMC item, or we can just do them all together. But
That sounds good to me, as long as it's all right with the chair to vote on amendments 1 and 2 now, and then wait for amendment 3 until Courtney gets a chance to talk.
Yeah, that's fine.
okay. But yeah, but I might be stealing some of her speaking, but the IIJA move for Amendment 3 was taking all the bridge investment funding that was added to 2022 and adding it to the Erie Bayfront to cover a cost increase. But other than that, I will field any questions anyone has for really any of the charts, but specifically here on the last chart with IIJA actions.
Are there any of the projects on there that involve signals that do not involve the addition of accessible pedestrian signals?
These are actually all the additions, except for the first administrative modification, are to this reserve line item. So it's not that they were really added to projects, they were just added to the tip, and then will be incorporated later on. But the first action, actually, I believe this is US 6 PA 8 to DOT shed and SR. So I don't believe these incorporate that, but it's really just adjusting cash flow. So, and that's how a lot of these actions have been going that we've seen across the state, is because it's so late in this tip year, we're seeing that a lot of this additional money is adjusting cash flow so that projects can be let a little earlier, and then that frees up funding for later on, especially into the 2023 draft tip. So unless the district wants to comment, I don't have anything more to say on that for pedestrian or crossings.
And Brandon, just to clarify, these amendments are specifically for the IIJA funds that are in the year 2022. So this isn't all the IIJA funds. This is only the 2022 ones that have to be spent by October 1st, I believe.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. So that's a good point. If I didn't clarify that, I apologize. It is just for 2022. There was additional funding, obviously, for later years that will eventually be for the 2023 tip, but this was, I'm not going to say kind of a bonus with the passage of the IIJA, which of course makes things a little complicated because we are, as everyone on the call knows, we're in the midst of preparing the draft tip for 2023. So it does make things a little challenging from a programming side, but you never want to complain about additional money. So we're just doing the best we can with it.
Are there any other questions?
Hey, Mark,
Yep,
is Gus still there on the line?
I believe so.
Gus, if you can hear me, can you do the voting on this? I know you're the alternate now, but I have not got the knowledge to properly vote on any of this stuff. I got to be around a little longer before I can do that. Can you do the voting for us?
He might have got off. Do you see him, Emily? I think Gus got off.
Just got off.
Yeah, I
Well,
think
then,
Gus got off, but you are
Okay.
welcome to abstain. So the
that's what
choice
I'm
is
gonna
for,
have to do till I get more familiar with what's going on.
yeah, that works. So the choices to vote are yay, nay, or just abstain. So that's fine. But is there a motion on the floor at the moment?
I'll make that motion, Paul Johnson.
I'll second Brian McNulty.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstain? Okay, thank you. Okay, so then fiscal constraint charts, administration modifications, is that what you'd just gone over? Is this different?
So this is specifically the section about Courtney Lyle, who will talk about the Bayfront Amendment that was the last fiscal constraint chart. So this really large IIJA bill modification that goes for 2 pages is the fiscal constraint chart attached to the CPDM item that Courtney would like to talk about a bit before we vote. So Courtney?
Yes. Yes, can you hear me, Emily?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. We have on multiple occasions discussed the Bayfront project and the funding. I am here today to request a vote to increase the utility phase, the right-of-way phase, and the construction phase on this project, totaling $4,079,209. Basically what we are finding is we are getting much, every time we get closer to the let date, we're refining all of our costs. That includes the $2.6 million that we are requesting as an increase to the construction cost, because we do have a more refined design, and we are able to look at what the current cost of materials are before we were looking at historical data. So we're taking into more of account the more current lettings that we've been having. And then we also have finally been able to get right-of-way finalized, which this increases to cover that, as well as utilities. We are not looking to defer any projects or anything like that with this particular increase. We are looking at adding all of the bridge infrastructure funding that we did receive, which is $3 million. And then we are going to be adding some additional state bridge money onto this project as a part of that. With us adding those funds to this project, we are looking at returning funds to projects to keep other paving projects and everything moving forward on the current schedule. So again, we're not looking at deferring anything. We are requesting this increase from looking at a more refined design and the costs, as well as the agreements we have in place for utilities and right-of-way. And we can answer any questions anyone might have on this.
Okay, are there any questions?
I would just like to comment that there is a lawsuit in process on this project, and there was no needed environmental assessment, and there was no attempt to analyze the micro scale pollution impacts of this project. I know that the MPO says that they're not required to, they're only required to look at the ozone, but I think it shows a lack of sensitivity to environmental justice to not analyze the micro scale impacts. This project has been shoved down the throats of the people of Erie by the state. We really have not had a chance to object to this project.
Okay, thank you.
As much as I'd love to respond to that type of comment, since it's in litigation, PennDOT will not comment on that type of situation. So we've covered that clearly in the past, but I think normal committee meeting is not the time really to engage in public comment. There was a time for that at the beginning of the meeting.
I was unable to comment because I lost my connection. I requested an opportunity to comment. I haven't been given one.
Hi, Freda. Yes, I'm sorry. I just saw your chat messages. If you wouldn't mind refraining, we can have another public comment period at the end of the meeting and you can say your piece. I'm sorry about that there wasn't connection, but if you wouldn't mind refraining till the end, we will do another comment period, if that is okay with our chair, Mark.
That's fine. Okay, so we need to take a vote on this IIJA amendments. Do I have a motion to accept?
I make a motion to accept. This is Matt Wallinger.
This is Brian McNulty. I will second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, moving on to number 7. IIJA BIL grants, Kevin or Ronique?
Actually, Kevin wasn't able to be on today. He had a conflicting meeting, so I can definitely cover the PennDOT central office side, if that's okay with Ronique.
Yeah, that'll be good. You can go
Okay.
ahead, Brandon, and then I can
Sure.
follow up with anything. Yep.
Excellent. All right. So just really a recap. We have, this is really in regards to a lot of the fiscal constraint charts we just viewed a few minutes ago, but with the passage of the IIJA/bill into law back in November of last year, this allowed for infusion of additional federal highway program funds for federal fiscal year 2022, in addition to what's being set later, in subsequent years. But for those purposes, there were basically 2 rounds of program adjustments that we were able to do from the program center side of things. Once we were able to get all the formula funding figured out. The first round of program adjustments and again, this is to the current 2021 TIP in just federal fiscal year 2022. We basically had the green light to go ahead with that, with creating fiscal constraint charts to add those on January 19th of 2022. So basically, this gave the District 1, as well as all the PennDOT districts, the go ahead to create those charts to find out where that funding could be placed, even if it was just in a reserve line item. And this was just done. So this first round was only for federal funds, the NHPP, HSIP, CMAQ, and the new BRIP funding, as well as a portion of the federal BOF funds. So the breakdown for Erie, again, was highlighted in the FC chart, but for that first round, it was $973,000 in NHPP, $476,000 in HSIP, $3,013,000 in BRIP, and $900,000 in the first portion of BOF funding. So that second round of program adjustments really came around middle of February, so February 16th. And again, this was given the authority to add funding for STP, the TAP TAU programs and STU funding, as well as the remaining portion of BOF funds. So the breakdown for Erie was 106,000 for the STP and 737,000 in the BOF remaining funding. So all these additions were done, even though at 2 separate times, because we didn't have approval from central office vetting and FHWA vetting to vote on them. We just save them all for this meeting to basically be presented and voted on as need be, based on if they were amendments or administrative modifications. Because even though this is additional funding to the program, it was treated with the same restraints that are used in the current 2021 TIP MOU. And we are waiting, I believe, still on guidance for the new programs, the Protect and the carbon reduction programs. But you'll hear more information as that comes out as well. Other than that, I have nothing else to cover, and I'll just pass it off to Ronique.
Hey, everybody. Brandon, you did a great job. Kind of what you were last referring to as far as the discretionary grant programs. The Protect program stands for Promoting Resilient Operations for Transformative, Efficient, and Cost-Saving Transportation. So that program is going to support resilient infrastructure projects. So that kind of spans from planning to resilience improvements, community resilience, evacuation routes, things of that nature. We haven't gotten guidance on that. We also haven't gotten any guidance on the carbon reduction program to date, but once that's issued out, we would definitely be in communication with Penndot and with the MPO on how to go for those grant programs. Another thing that I wanted to point out, in addition to all the core funding programs that Brandon just mentioned, we do have guidance on the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Formula Program, which is the abbreviation for that is NEVI, NEVI. And so yeah, I just wanted to mention that there's also fact sheets available. I can post the bipartisan infrastructure law website through FHWA to the chat. You guys probably already are aware of it, already have it, but new things get added to it every day or every so often. So I usually, we try to keep a close eye on things as things start to roll out. Let me see, is there anything else I wanted to add? No, I think that's it. Brandon did a great overview, and yeah, any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to Brandon, and Brandon will reach out to me, or you can reach out to me directly. And yeah, I'll just be communicating through Emily or the chair, but yep, always open for any questions or comments you may have. So that I'm done. That, yeah, that's my part. So I'll just hand it over to Emily or the chair. Thank you, guys.
Okay, Emily, any additions or?
No, thank you to Ronique and Brandon for that update. I'm sure there will be more information coming out very soon about those new programs.
So yep, bouncing up to number 8, the $5 local use fee projects. John or Emily, are you able to touch on those? Or?
Take it away, Emily. I don't have anything on this. Go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to mention that the Technical Advisory Committee met on January 26th and recommended funding the preliminary engineering and final engineering for the Beeson Road Bridge in Washington Township that had been identified by the $5 local use fee subcommittee as a bridge that is structurally deficient in needing of repair. And Washington Township has signed an interest form. They want to get this started as soon as possible. Likely we'll have a field visit next week if the committee chooses to approve the allocation of funding.
Okay, so do I have a motion to accept Beeson Road Bridge in Washington Township, the PENFD? Take a motion.
Paul Johnson, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the second one was the Ore Docks Road and Conneaut Township. And Emily, if you could touch on this a little bit as far as the engineering and so forth.
Sure. This project was recommended to also receive funding for preliminary and final engineering or final design of the engineering services, but the municipality, while interested in the funding, wanted to go with their local engineer. So in that instance, when it's not put out for public bid, the funds cannot go towards engineering services. That's not a reimbursable expense. So at this point, I think the motion should be to table this until we have construction drawings that we know are fundable, since we cannot award any funds for engineering for the project.
Okay, so at this time, I guess we're going to table that one and we'll get back to that one later.
Do we have to vote on tabling it or do we just table it?
What is your thought, John? We can vote to table it, or
I don't know.
Mark, as chair, I defer to you. What would you like?
I'll take a motion to table this project at this time.
I'll make a motion to table.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thanks. 2050 Long Range Transportation Plan.
All right, so with the long range transportation plan, we have to adopt the air quality conformity report and resolution before we adopt or vote on the plan. So just to briefly discuss what the air quality resolution is and the report. Hopefully everyone has had a chance to look this over. So Erie County is a maintenance area for the 1997 Ozone National Ambient Air Quality Standards. So this report describes the EPA's transportation conformity criteria, standards, and the LRTP requirements. So the regionally significant fiscally constrained projects were submitted to the ICG, which is the Interagency Consultation Group, for review. And this report is from them showing that the Erie County Long Range Transportation Plan meets the Clean Air Act and Transportation Conformity Rule requirement. So we are within the ozone standards from 1997. We also have a resolution from the committee that attests to this, that we understand that there was a law that was revoked and reinstated the 1997 ozone NAAQS. So before we do anything with the LRTP, we have to have a motion to adopt this report and resolution. So if anyone would like to make that motion, they can do so now. Or
I
if
will
there are
make
any
that motion.
questions as well.
Paul
have a-
Johnson, I'll make that motion.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks. Project updates.
So actually, Mark, we
Yep,
have
go
to now vote to adopt the long-range transportation plan. So I'm sorry, this is a little twist in the agenda here. That luckily FHWA let me know that we needed to adopt the air quality first before we adopt the long-range transportation plan. So just to briefly describe the plan, hopefully everyone has had a chance to look this over and read it. Our 2050 long-range transportation plan defines the goals and objectives of the MPO. It lists the current transportation assets we have, the deficiencies we see, criteria for ranking projects, and the fiscal constraint of projects. So we just had a 30-day public comment period on the draft of the LRTP. So during that comment period, 228 comments were received. So myself and our consultant really, WRA, who Chris Lucia from WRA is here with us today. If he has anything to add after this, I'll let him. But we tried to incorporate as much as we could from those comments into the draft. So some of the things we added were a public outreach appendix is now in the report that lists all of the comments we received during the comment period, this last comment period, and the first comment period as well that we had last summer. Other things we added were transit funding tables, which we did not have before. We revised a lot of the fiscal constraint in relation to the LRTP and the TIP and those projects. We added a map overlaying the LRTP projects onto our low-income and minority maps, and we added in state planning factors to the text. So before any motions, I would like to thank everyone who participated and read and took part in this long-range transportation plan process. Are there any questions or comments that anyone would like to make before we vote? All right, well, if there are none, is there a motion on the floor?
Emily, I'll make a motion to adopt the 2050 long-range transportation plan.
Is there a second?
I'll second, Leanne.
Thanks, Leanne. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 10, project updates, EMTA.
All right, I have a pretty brief update today. And as you know, we've been working on the strategic plan, revising that with Court Gold. We also will be updating the coordinated public transit human services plan as well. We did just receive 8 new 6-route buses that will be replacing our 40-foot diesel fueled buses. So we are looking forward to getting those on the road once we have all our graphics on there, and you'll be seeing them around Erie.
Okay, thank you, Danny.
You're welcome.
Penndot project newsletter.
Good morning, everybody. I also have somewhat of a brief update. Starting up top of Depot Road. I think last time I spoke about this, we were working on public involvement. We're actually still working on getting out to the public with this project. There was some issues with contacting some property owners along this route that were actually out of the country. So we didn't want to have a public meeting without them kind of being notified of what was going on here. So still working through that, but we're hoping we're getting to the point of going out to the public with this. Moving down to Bayfront. I think we talked a little bit about right of ways moving forward. I think we finally are making progress with the railroad and acquiring that property and getting this project moving forward. Working on the Holland Street pedestrian bridge, getting peer reviews on that, and again, getting this project to the finish line. Moving down to the bottom, Niemeyer Road Bridge. There's just a slight little hang up on this one with updating some environmental documentation. And once we get that all taken care of, this one should be hopefully moving out the door. So feel free to reach out at any point with any questions.
Thanks, Ron. Other business, MPO 101, Emily?
Yes, last TAC meeting, we discussed having an informational session about MPOs since there are so many new members on the board this year. So we have those scheduled for, there are actually 2 sessions that we're going to have. Both will be virtual. One will be March 30th from 1:30 to 3 and April 6th from 1:30 to 3. So these will be open to everyone, not just voting members. If the public would like to know more about the MPO, the board members, what the MPO does, what MPO stands for, if you don't know that one's a Metropolitan Planning Organization. We will be having those coming up in March and April. So if anyone has a specific agenda item that they really want to know about at the meeting, please let me know and we can have that on the agenda. There will be lots of time during the sessions for questions. So if you can wait and ask then as well. But that is coming up and I'll be sending out calendar invites hopefully later today for those meetings. So just moving on, we also have the hybrid meeting update. That's me too. At one of our meetings last year, we discussed having hybrid meetings and it was half and half, people who wanted to go back to in-person and people who wanted to remain virtual. So I have contacted some places, basically Summit Township Municipal Building, and also the Intermodal Transportation Center at the Bayfront about holding hybrid meetings. So the meetings will remain on Zoom and also be in person for those who want to attend in person. This is an official revision to our 2022 schedule, so this will require a vote by the board to adopt. So does anyone have any questions, concerns about moving to hybrid? All right, well, hearing none, would someone like to make a motion to either accept or not accept the revised schedule?
I'll make a motion to accept. Brian McNulty.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, and then the adjournment, May 11th, 10 a.m. Technical Advisory Committee meeting.
So actually, if we want, we can have another hearing of the public, Mark, since some of the members couldn't get on at the beginning.
I was just going to comment on that. I stepped away for a few minutes, but I saw Freda's chat screen, and I was going to ask if we could do that and give everyone a chance.
Okay. Freda?
Thank you. I'm sorry if I burst out last time, but I was very frustrated and you've already done all your voting. I do feel that it is important for there to be a consideration of the true air pollution impacts to the people who are in the areas where these projects are going on. And that just because the EPA does not require anything more doesn't mean it would not have been an appropriate expression of attention to environmental justice to look at what are the microscale impacts to bringing more traffic into an area. I think it's not a good faith effort to analyze how our projects affect people if we only look at the ozone conformance data. And that was confirmed to me by a former employee of the air quality program at DEP, that's what microscale impacts are. I do feel that the Bayfront project does not truly reflect the desires of the community. And it's very unfortunate that we're being, had the city not transferred that road to the state in exchange for some other road, we probably would not be forced to accept that. I am also hoping, it's very hard to tell because some of my comments, it just said, thank you for your comment, thank you for your comment. I could tell that in some places you had actually inserted APS. This is a very significant thing. If we are putting in any traffic lights, if we are redoing any traffic lights, there should be accessible pedestrian signals. And where we are putting in bike paths that are separated, there is an impact to the ability of people who are visually impaired to travel safely. And we need to, again, ensure that we have used best practices and that all the traffic lights along those routes have accessible pedestrian signals. I really hope that the MPO projects really do consider the needs of the residents and the people, and don't just help more traffic go quickly from I-90 to I-79 and back up again as they are. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Passel, the date of the E&D meeting is March 17th. Thank you.
Dave Mitchell here. Mark, can you hear me?
Yes.
Just a quick comment. Right now, there's a lot of movement to suspend gas taxes. And I don't know if the public understands the impact of suspending the gas tax on road projects, on transportation in general, that if they suspend the gas tax, it will move over into where there'll be supplemental appropriations out of regular income and property. So I just hope that we can make people aware that this is not a simple solution to a daily problem. It will have a tremendous impact on the potholes on the roads this year are absolutely awful because of the climate this year. And if Penndot's hands are tied funding, it's going to be brutal. So I just want to make those comments so we have our antennas up if we're discussing this with people. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Any other comments? Take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion, Ron Ball.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mark, for leading the meeting.
Thanks for having me.